Cash rules everything around me.
Dude.
Does it really?
Well, this is the question, isn't it?
It is.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Water Cooler Brand Talk. What a week it's been, guys. How's your week been?
What yours? Have you found how to get to Coach G yet?
Now, we'll talk about my week, but how's your week been?
I'm good. I've had a great week. You told me earlier. We're all good.
Martin?
Yeah, it was good. It's good. Long. It's gonna be a long weekend as well. You know, we just moved into this office. This is the third weekend that we are spending here fixing stuff. So it's all blurred, life and work at the moment.
How's the commute from your place now? Has it changed a lot?
It's ridiculous. It's like 15 minutes.
15 minutes more.
15 minutes with a car, no, or I can just walk for like half an hour.
Because it's pretty good. Okay, yeah. That traffic in Limassol when we came is just crazy.
Yeah, traffic is mad. Way too many cars. It's not fit for pedestrian, you know, Limassol. It's just it's not good.
So guys, I'm seeing people trickle in. Ian, what's up, man? Is Ian saying looking forward to the chat and a killer track to start? Yep.
That's right.
A LinkedIn user, sometimes I get these weird LinkedIn users, but it's because of your privacy settings, so I don't know who you are.
That's actually me in the chat.
Oh, is it you?
It is.
All right. Well, you need to put your privacy settings, man.
You need to sort out your profile, mate. Just put a name and surname at least.
Hey, Miroslav, good to see you again. You were here last week. Thanks for coming on again. Or gathering around. Stephanie, what's up? Good day. So what I wanted to propose as well, like today, this is a real test, so I can't guarantee that this will work, but if you want to join us live near to the end of the call, just drop us comments in here and make sure your mic and video ready. And what I'll try doing is I'll send you a link to join the call. If there's anyone that's interested and wants to ask questions or comment on any of the stuff, then let's try it. I can't guarantee it'll work, but we can give it a go.
And also, by video ready, we mean better than Ash. So the benchmark is really, really low. So don't worry about that.
Oh, joke though, like we always had this plan of like bringing people in, so we wanted to wait a couple of weeks, but we thought, you know what, let's do it today. Let's just see how it rolls. So
because it's a water cooler, right? So
and like, we should be here just to kill time and talk shit.
Gets a bit boring with these two.
Jeremy is asking if a British accent is necessary not to join the live. No, it's not. But if you have an Italian one, you can.
Jeremy, you can join the live anytime you want, man. We love you, and we love what you guys do.
Right.
Let's go.
What are we talking about, guys?
So, cash rules everything around me. The topic is building brands or boosting sales. A bit of another clickbaity title that we came up with. Like, is this a debate? But we found, like, ever since when I was in corporate, it's always been a bit of a debate. Like, do we invest for the long term, or do we need to invest on things that are going to get us immediate ROMI or ROI? And that's the things that we can measure really quickly, right? So I guess that's, we want to kind of dig into this debate and see what you guys think. So, how do we do it? What's the split? And how we measure it, these kind of things. So let us know, let us know in the comments what you think. So let's start off, guys. Like, why is this such a debated topic in, I guess, marketing rooms and the C-suite?
Who wants to go?
Don't know. I feel like passionate about it. Go on.
It's always been an issue with me, or I've always been challenged because obviously I come from a brand background, but I kind of learned a lot of my trade through marketing. So I've been in both fields and always trying to get buy-in on brand for the long-term value is really hard because, 9 times out of 10, the people you're working with or the people you're working for are on a short tenure and they need response, they need return really quick to prove and leave a legacy. So it's easier to sell in a marketing tactic, which is short term, which is going to get a return really quick, because you've got buy-in instantly from the people you're working for that don't want to take that risk or might not even be in the business in 5 years' time. So they're never going to see that value or even try to explain that value of brand. Like they're just not. I think that's why it's always been this weird challenge scenario. I don't believe they're inseparate. I'm not in the camp of brand versus marketing. They belong together. They hold hands. They support each other, and that's how they should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a
that's
problem.
My take.
It's a problem of perceptions as well, right? The marketing and like performance marketing is perceived as a science, and brand is perceived like a mystical art, and it's much easier to understand. When you spend X, you will get X, Y, Z, right? So you're buying attention. It's quantifiable, it's immediate, it's data-driven, and a CEO that comes out of Business Harvard School can understand it immediately. Whether brand is much harder to track, or we think is much harder to track. So it's a conversation that doesn't really find place in the traditional C-suite. And it's a shame, because there should be a balance. The problem with performance marketing and brand marketing is a problem of buying attention and generating attention. Buying attention is good, but as soon as you stop putting money on it, it's gone.
Yeah.
Whether generating attention is a long-term plan, it's much slower to pick up, but you get into a flywheel effect. You get into a place where it will start spinning and going by itself.
I don't know if this whole comment's going to come on. No, it's going to be cut off, but I can read it here. But it's a good comment here, Rebecca. Surely the split comes down to the business objectives and marketing strategy. You've got to balance both short and the long-term goals. Maybe you can't see the rest of this, but both brand long-term engagement, shorter revenue, short and long. Short-term metrics should contribute to the long-term goals. I agree.
100.
I agree. Yeah. So I think it's worth noting this conversation, and these guys were instrumental in terms of changing the conversation. And this book here that I've got here on my desk, The Long and Short of It, by Binet and Field, they've been instrumental in changing the conversation. Like I said, that book was released over 10 years ago, and they actually started showing they worked on data behind the power of both emotional brand comms and short-term rational messages. So they're like Rebecca quite rightly says, it depends on your objectives, but I think majority, especially in my time in corporate, I found like you said, Martin, marketing people lean towards the things that can be measured immediately. And online is really good for that, because you can almost get immediate analytics for a lot of the stuff that you do, right? Would you agree that the brand communication side is a longer term effort, like it takes a little bit longer to measure?
I think it does. It takes longer to generate, it takes longer to measure, and it takes longer to become sticky in the customer mind. But I think that is the real power. We talked about buying attention and generating attention. There is another fundamental principle, which is the 95 versus 5%, right? Which is basically, it's a proven rule that 95% of the customers at any given time are not in the market for the product that you have to sell. Basically means that 95% of the people they are advertising to, marketing to, they are not ready to purchase today what you have to offer. Only 5% of it is. So this means that being solely focused on marketing performance or on performance marketing will not give you the ROI you expected.
Immediate,
right? Because people are not ready to buy. Exactly. So again, it's a balance game. I'm frozen, by the way. Can you guys still hear me?
You were frozen, but you've come back. It was a split second. You're good.
Yeah. So there is this 95.5 versus 5% rule, right? So it's like buying a car, right? You will buy a car every 5, 6, 10 years. But when you do have that need of a car, you know that you want a BMW versus a Fiat. It's pretty much the same. So performance marketing is good, but also building up a memory
Of course.
in your customer mind. Need arises, they know they come to you. And this happens to me all the time. This is my private personal brand marketing strategy. I build content in order to appeal to CMOs. And when this CMO changes companies and they're going to a new brand and there's a brand need, they call me, because over those 5 years of our LinkedIn connection, I was posting continuously. If I had stopped, that person would have forgot about me, and I would have not built that mind, right? The memory, that positioning in the brain.
Right.
Yeah.
And that content as well is done differently. It's an interesting one, actually, the personal brand versus the business brand, because there is a different approach to both. So brand communications is that kind of emotional, you're not relying on promos, discounts, and the buy now type of things. And discounts is a whole new thing altogether, how it can negatively impact the brand as well in the long term. But I think the personal side, what you do is you give away free content, and you're not selling anything. There's no promos there. There's no kind of buy now kind of immediate action needed from your audience, right? But when there is later on, that will be a sustained memory within them. So we're building memory structures, right, over time.
And how much is that worth? How much is that worth, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the problem, isn't it? The organic part is hard to quantify, because it happens in such a long time, such a long term of.
Yeah.
And we've been challenged that, or at least I've been challenged it in my past, and I still get challenged it now with people that I'm going into business with. We've had discussions about this of like, is there any genuine way to try and put a cost to long-term brand building, right? And finance people will always put this anomaly down to goodwill, but there is, and I have been in conversations with people in level C and you guys and Marty Numia and Andy, like, if we take the annual profit of the year and then we take out the actual marketing cost, the production cost, the innovation costs, and anything else that's been used to sell a product, service, or organization, like whatever's left is always put down to goodwill. Like there's no pin to put on that by a finance person. But in essence, that's brand doing its job. That's the effect of the perception you're leaving as a product of an organization behind that helps sell that product without marketing, without the innovation, without the and that bit is the bit you can claim and say, well, technically that could be your brand doing its job over that period of time. So you can argue that, and believe me, I've been in rooms and had some interesting conversations with CFOs about that. But you have got a level standard,
don't we? Like collectively, when we're on a call, maybe even discovery, even before we start working with clients, we want to make sure we hear all the stakeholders, and one of those stakeholders are inevitably comes from finance. And what you said there, Wes, is a good segue into this question. I don't know, again, it's a long question, but I don't know whether I'll read it out if we don't show up fully on the screen. Oh yeah. So Kevin here saying, I've got a client where boosting sales is everything. They've grown to a 1 billion company now, this is the thing, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it mentality. Time to invest in building the brand, but that's a world they don't know, uncomfortable for them. How do we convince them? Great question.
Yeah,
it's interesting, and that's the typical client we work with, isn't it? Like one of our target clients has those people that are being successful, those teams that are being successful organically, and they reach into a really successful growth phase, but now they kind of like hit the ceiling, right? And they're unable to plan the next growth phase. And Kevin, it's a good question. I think I don't know if it's a work of convincing or building trust and relationship with them. It's difficult.
I also think it's a matter of, and I think Wes, you touched on it, is speaking in their language.
Yeah.
So speaking in their language, meaning, okay, so the long-term brand building over a certain amount of time, which these things can be measured, which we'll talk about a bit later on, actually shows that you are able to grow profits, not just revenue, profits, because you're able to reduce price sensitivity over time as well, because you've built trust. And when you do that, you increase brand awareness, equity, and all of that, but it translates into X, Y, and Z, these figures in terms of growth.
100%. But you also gain market share, isn't it? I think that's a brand driven metric, isn't it? Which is one of those ones that you understand, and you try to understand how much of the market you're getting, especially in saturated market. Brand is really important, and especially in very highly competitive market where product differentiation is limited, where feature differentiation is limited, there is even a higher need of brand, building that differentiator, building that connection elsewhere. And I think most of the markets at the moment are like that. There are maybe 4, 5, 6 companies that are truly putting out their innovations. All the others, they're kind of competing pretty much on the same level.
Yeah.
And that's where a brand can come in and really push you forward, right?
Yeah, I think it's also like simple things, like to Kevin's point, just actually getting them to understand what brand is. And when they realize that the brand is actually the customer, that pivot changes. Like your brand is not these things we can touch. This brand is the things we can feel, the things that leave us to talk and organically sell. And that's the bit that they can never understand, because you can't put a price or an ROI on that. You just got to wait for that interaction to happen, and then the magic happens, right?
I think it's also not allowing enough time to measure the long term.
It won't happen. It won't happen overnight.
It won't happen overnight. And I think I read somewhere it might have been one of these the brand measuring companies, either System 1 or Go Tracksuit or one of those. An article is that you should be taking at least 6 minimum to 12 to 18 months. So you're putting KPIs at the start of some of those things that you measure, like brand awareness, recall, and growth, and all of those things, and then measure it later specifically on those brand campaigns, and it can be done. Ian, what happens if they don't invest in brand? Ian's another brand strategist, right? So what do you think, Ian? Drop as your thoughts in the comments. But I mean, what happens if they don't invest in brand? I like to use this analogy, is that you're always chasing your tail. You're always chasing quarterly target, right? You're not chasing the next decade, you're chasing the next quarter.
100, definitely, like it's
100%. I have a default view in that. One is that one is that your marketing spend will never go down, because you will never reach that flywheel brand magic space where the brand starts to generate organic purchasing power, and kind of you're able to spend less on the marketing. And the second one is that invest in brand or not invest in brand, you are a brand.
Yeah.
Right? The moment that your product or service leaves your HQ and reach a customer, it generates an impression, generates an experience, and it becomes a brand. So the other fundamental question in that is that, do you want to leave it to chance, or do you want to have a strategy to generate the brand that you want?
Exactly.
So, ladies and gentlemen, like, if we understand brand and we don't understand brand, if we actively do it or we don't do it, it happens. It's already happening. So all the time that you're questioning yourself on actively branding or not, you're just simply wasting time, because it's already happening.
And that could come back to Kevin's point about, how do you convince, man? Like, if this has been a brand by chance, if this has grew to 1 billion or whatever he said, and this is this thing called
that's a good answer,
brand by chance, right? And that's what when I say that to my clients and you guys, like, that means you've just happened to get everything right at the start and everything clicks, or you rode a trend and you've hit it. If you're a brand by chance, you've got there so quick, so fast, and no one wants to change. But the moment, like, you stop, like we did it. I worked in the Nikon bathroom brand, and like we would pull back on marketing, like spend, digital marketing spend, just to see how that week on week would change. And then you can start pinpointing and say, well, it's actually a brand by chance, because you're actually just funding, it's not a successful brand. You're just you're just funding it with cost.
Keep pushing stuff in.
It's like the heroin effect. I used to say this to my marketing team, like it's like being on heroin, right? I know it's a really vulgar like scenario, but you inject because you get that high, and then the moment you come down, you drop. So you need to inject again, and you go back up, and all you keep doing is going higher.
And there's actual data behind that. So I obviously referenced the long and short of it book, but that short term is actually, it shows that as a graph, right? So you're doing that. So, and the short term is very quickly forgotten about, right? So you have to keep doing it. You have to keep spending. And the interesting thing is as well, those short-term things don't compound to a long-term. So you keep doing it, you keep spending, but it doesn't impact a long-term brand. So you have to do things differently.
Yeah.
So the short-term is the rational messaging, and the long-term is the emotional stuff.
Yeah.
So I think to give real extreme examples of those are online stuff that you can measure, and almost demand a instant direct response, like buy now or whatever. That's the short term. And then the other extreme for brand communications is Christmas ads, right? John Lewis, everyone knows John Lewis. Well, UK based John Lewis ads, they're famous, I'm sure, globally. Or some of the, which is another sensitive topic, but some Super Bowl ads, like a lot of them are a complete waste of money, but there are some that have shown to, stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Because of the emotional message behind it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like we were just in London this morning and as you do, just having a discussion on the way to a workshop, and it's almost like short-term tactics are designed to remind you that the brand is there from a marketing point of view. Like, immersive experiences, tactical experiences, they're designed to not only sell a product, but just remind you that the brand behind it is there. And so back to your point at the start of the call, Martin, when you are ready to transact, it's at front of mind. So not only are they there for I guess financial return, but they're there to gain awareness and market return, because they're just constantly in your face.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I think someone else said in the chat that the things are changing now, and people are so tired of being sold off. Everyone is tired to see advertisement and seeing pushy sales. And I think even performance marketing shouldn't be about lead generation or sales generation, but it should be about brand awareness and building that top of mind memorability, right? So being ready for when the need arises. So here's my provocation for you boys. Where is the problem? Is the problem in the C-suite, which usually has a short-term run and they need to generate sales, they need to generate because of the investors, because of the shareholders, they need to see metrics during their CEO, pushing for lead gen versus branding, because branding will happen anyway once they're left? Or is it in the marketing teams not fully valuing brand? So where is it? Is it a top-down pressure, or is a bottom-up lack of understanding?
I think without generalizing, it depends on the company. But generally, I find there are a lot of marketers out there that are under a lot of pressure, right? So I think it does trickle down, and quite understandably as well, right? When you've got things decided because of the revenue that you need to bring in and your targets, that does trickle down, and that is pressure. So you have to show how you're doing that. And that's always short term, and the things that you can measure easily, right? I say no, very few marketing heads, CMOs, marketing managers are measured across, 5-year or 10-year period. It's usually done quarterly or year on year, right? So
I would agree on that.
Yeah. It's an interesting comment in the chat about, from Abdullah saying top-down pressure generates the sales. Like it's always pressured to bring in. I was in boardrooms every week. With last time I was at a commercial company, and it was always like everyone had a different objective in that room, and I never could control it, and I could never get everyone to align as good as I am at my job, because the sales guy had an ROI, he had an expectancy, he had KPIs, he had to match this, and getting KPIs right across a business that isn't just like money or materialistic driven is really hard to sell in. But the moment you do that, then everyone starts getting measured on different things outside of money, as well as money, don't get me wrong. And then you start seeing businesses function. So coincidentally, I now have worked with the CMO that was at that other brand that I was at, and she now fully has understood that. Not that she didn't get it before, but she's had more of a chance to get that mentality into this business that she's at now, and it functions in a completely different way. And it's just really interesting how you see like KPI driven affects that outcome.
Rebecca is on fire. I think everything she's saying is
gold.
Like she's saying that there is a big gap.
I'm loving it.
There is a big gap between the investor C-suite and the team, 100%. There is a lack of alignment between sales, marketing, product, finance. It's a big issue. And Rebecca, that's the work that we do. That's like the three of us. That's what we call brand. Is the alignment, right? The brand strategy for us is taking everyone, putting into the same boat, rowing into the same direction with the same tempo and the same cadence, right? So 100%. Why do we have that problem? This is one of the conversations we had many times, and business school does not teach brand, and brand school does not teach business. So the divide is formational on how we get taught. We come out of creative and strategy university, and we are not get taught how to relate with the C-suite, and the C-suite does not get taught how to relate with marketing and brand and the creative. So there are two worlds that they need to collide creatively and purposefully to make it happen, but in reality they're colliding, they're clashing, right, in a way.
Yeah. And right, Martin, you're right. And coincidentally, our biggest challenge, and I will say this, and you can quote me, our biggest challenge is getting 20 people in a room that are in different departments to align and come out of that room fully bought in, ready to move. And we always say to CEOs and people that buy in us as a three, that when we walk in a room, alignment is the most valuable word you'll ever understand after this, right? You'll see how much value is in that word once you've worked on our workshop, because once you're all pulling in a direction, like you said, and you're all making decisions in the right way, every marketing department, every sales department, every department from the floor to the ceiling is pulling in that one direction. Alignment is so valuable, like so underrated, understated, and undervalued massively.
It's like that story of the NASA janitor, right? Which we say all the time, isn't it? Is when like in the 60s, Kennedy walks into his space center and sees a janitor cleaning the floor and asks the janitor, "What are you doing at NASA?" And the janitor looks up and says, "Mr. President, it's very clear. I'm helping to put a man on the moon." So that's the type of alignment that pushes organizations to the moon.
And it starts bleeding.
Everyone is aligned.
Right? Yeah, it bleeds into our electrical because purpose is driving that, right? And when we get that and we realize it's much beyond more than money, everyone's pulling in the same direction, and we're making money day to day without forcing it.
Yeah.
I've just messaged Rebecca, and we're going to try this. What I said at the start. Thanks for your connection request, Rebecca. I've accepted. I've asked her, "Do you want to jump on the live?" And she said, "Why not?" So. We're half past, so let me see if I can work this out in around about next 5-10 minutes. And I'll send you a link.
Get ready.
It might not happen, but I'd love it for it to happen. This would be great. So, Rebecca, I'm going to send you a link. You'll be in a waiting room, and then as soon as I see you, I'll put you on live.
Would she have some of those very annoying waiting room music?
I don't know if it has any of that elevator music, but I'm sure we can find some. Yeah. So, can you think of any examples like ads? I was having a look again. I love referencing that book, long and short of it. It's really hard to find examples that are data driven in terms of how brand communications has impacted business growth. And some of the examples in that book is great. One of them is Hovis, and I remember Hovis. It's a UK
around the corner from
bakery. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was it from Nottingham, are they?
They're around the corner, yeah. Definitely.
All right.
My little boy spots the trucks.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they had this old heritage ad. I don't know whether you guys remember it, but it's a boy running through history as if he's like time traveling across hundreds
Yeah.
of years. And it was like obviously shining a light on their heritage. And very rarely did they obviously, they feature the bread or at all any rational messaging. But they found just in 1 year, year on year, their sales rose by 14% because of that ad, and that was measured.
I,
Brilliant.
I think it was. I think it was beyond the ad. If you think this was a company that was really struggling, and they called the billion brand strategy. I remember I read on another book actually, which is the I can't remember the book name, but I'll put it in the comment later. And they were trying to find the true source of hobbies of the brand. And what they did, they went back into the archives and they understood that they always been that quintessential British brand and very traditional. They always been there throughout wars and everything. Is a really old brand. So they went back to that. So they were already sitting on gold. They just did not manage to leverage it. And that's true for so many brands we work with as well. Is the fact that they have the real secret weapon and secret power, but because in the midst of everything else is been just covered and it's just hidden there.
Another interesting example as well was Aldi in 2009 recession. In a recession, these kind of discount brands should do well, right? But they actually didn't when they focused too much on the rational messaging, and it was kind of price wars. And this is how much. But what it did was it actually impacted trust between them and their customers. But they turned it around with a little bit more of an emotional ad where they had younger children. It sounds really cheesy, but I'm sure when you see it, it was creatively well executed. But they turned it around and they had that emotional factor alongside that rational messaging, so working hand in hand. And that's just
I think it was McCann behind that.
Was it?
Yeah, because a little nugget that you guys don't know, even though you know me really well, that Lucy, my partner, she was the one behind all the Aldi war ads, and the famous one was like, I don't like tea, I like gin. That was Lucy. True story.
Brilliant.
Yeah, concepted it.
We could get Lucy on one of these. Like,
concepted that in a New York apartment, like on a post-it note. It was mental.
Yeah. And then another example, I think quite recently as well, was do you guys remember the Amazon ad from last year, Christmas ad?
Amazing.
Yeah, so a lot of people there was a lot of debate saying that was a rubbish creative. It was like older, like senior people on a sledge and remembering the old times. Down a sledge, and there was a massive there was debate on LinkedIn saying that this is just rubbish and really bad creative. But again, I'm a big fan of System 1, who measures the emotional side of these creatives and what an impact it has of these brands, and it's data driven, and it was actually a really effective ad. It was really effective. Martin's froze again. There we go.
So when we bring in our guest in, come on.
I've sent Rebecca. I've sent you a link in the DMs. I'm not sure whether you've seen that.
Ash, you're going to fail.
LinkedIn DM
live. Is this a newfound level of Ash getting lost?
Yeah, I think you might have to set up a restream account or something like that. I don't know.
So you failed. So I didn't want to set you for failure, but you did fail in this.
We're not failed yet. Come through, Rebecca.
Not yet. So do you guys want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the different phases of when a company approaches approaches one side, performance marketing or brand marketing? Because that's also interesting, isn't it? Because in the lifespan of a brand, there are different phases, and from startup to grown up, scale up, and everything. So, and there is some data on it as well. I think Ash, we were talking about it before, right?
Yeah, logically, it's early phase. You're pumping more money into growth, right?
Yes and no.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Let's talk about it.
So, hey, look, we've got Rebecca in the waiting room. So let's just quickly answer this question. And maybe Rebecca can also weigh in. Can you see us, Rebecca? Because we can see you in the waiting room.
Oh dear.
Just give
I
us a
cannot
wave.
see her. Where is the waiting room?
I don't know. Ash is just waving.
And maybe because I'm the owner. So, thank you, Rebecca. I did not fail. So thank you so much for showing these guys up. But yeah, so on that note, it's a question that we get. So if you're bought into this idea of let's balance brand communications with not only performance marketing but direct response marketing, what should be the split is the question that we often
Where to
get.
start with, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and the average split, again, from the long and short of it, is 60% brand communications and 40% on the shorter term marketing. However, we know that it's usually the other way around, probably skewed towards 80-90% with the short term marketing, right?
Yeah.
I'd love Rebecca to weigh in on this, or anything that you want to, Rebecca. I'm going to add you in. Let's see if this works.
Yes,
yeah.
it is. Yay.
Hello.
Hello. You're our first guest.
Do you know what? I've even heard people have an 80-20 split, but that be more focused on like 80 towards the brand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which sounds like a lot, but then surely it just comes down to what you're classing as brand and what you're classing as everything else, because you could talk about demand gen, which is the kind of brand, like more long-term, meaty version of doing lead gen as brand. So what do you think of that?
So give us an example of what that looks like then. that meaty version of lead gen. Can you think of any examples?
So rather than just focusing on we need to get loads of fucking leads, sorry for swearing, but just leads, numbers, quantity.
Yeah.
What does quality look like? Focusing on, I mean, you've got to know what your pipeline looks like, right?
Yeah.
Where people are dropping off, where you've got churn, who's actually showing interest through that buying journey, and where you're having most trouble, and building out a content strategy or whatever your campaigns look like that suit the customer and the brand, but actually really speak to that ideal customer and give them value, rather than just focusing on, you know, quantity, focusing on everyone.
Instead of getting clicks, isn't it? Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I think it goes back into where our KPIs are and where our metrics and what we want to reward, isn't it? Like if we want to reward shitty clicks, or we want to reward actually people that will bring something to the business. And it's interesting, and my mind keeps going back into startups. Startups don't have money, they don't have time, and they need to do a bit of everything. And at the beginning, they're kind of attracted by performance marketing, but for them it's expensive. So what they do, they get smart, they get creative, they get strategical, they go into guerrilla marketing. So they invest their time into making a boom, making something different. And I think that's they are without knowing doing brand, because marketing for them is more expensive. And I love that. And then they get a bit of money, they start spending on marketing, and then later on, usually when startups go from startups to grow ups, that's where they start to take brand more seriously. That's where they say, oh, we have more money now, we can afford to invest into these things that we do not understand a lot. And it's a shame, because in reality they were already doing it in a way since the beginning. So there is a bit of like a skewed view. Yeah.
And if that first campaign was measured on awareness, they'd be like, let's feed it.
100%. Because for me, guerrilla marketing is experiential, and anything experiential to me goes back to brand, because you're making people feel and experience.
But you
something.
can bet your
you're
bottom
making
dollar
people feel that. Yeah, exactly.
You can bet your bottom dollar, quote unquote, something would have been said by that founder or by that marketing team saying, right, we're going to do this to get more sales.
So Rebecca, are you a marketer at a company, or what do you do? Just as an
I'm a consultant.
Okay.
Consulting. Yeah.
So I've worked in corporate works, in-house, started in agency, and now kind of gone into my own startup really, and I'm consulting companies on marketing strategy, really trying to teach people the shit that like we've been talking about this afternoon, like uncomplicating marketing strategy, but actually having one.
Yeah.
A real
what
one.
one is, I think, is the first task. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And this conversation, I really like the point you made, Martin, because I think startups have actually got a really great opportunity because you can use performance marketing to test messaging and see.
Yeah,
it's a really great way.
Let's see a response.
Yeah,
react. Let's
yeah. You don't have to put all of your budget into it,
no.
But because you've got to be scrappy, like you do kind of need to know what you're about, or at least have quite a strong founder, like a mission and what you're about, and then you can kind of build out from there. What I see a lot of companies do is, like you say, they do what they're trying to do anything just to make some revenue. It's usually random acts of marketing. And then they're like, oh shit, we've grown now, we've made some money, we need to have a brand presence.
Do you think the size of the budget, if you recommend a certain amount of the budget goes into brand communications and a certain amount goes into the short-term direct response and performance marketing, do you think the amount on brand communication scare the decision makers off if it can't be measured immediately? Is that something you found?
Yeah. Spending money scares people, right? If they don't know what they're going to get for it,
especially if they don't get an immediate response, they can't allocate where it's going, or they can't justify why to put more into it. Do you know what I mean?
And this is the thing. I think that's another myth, that you have to spend loads in brand communications. There was another Christmas ad that was done on a budget. Do you remember the Northern Ireland pub that did almost like and it went viral, and it was done on a shoestring budget, and it was just like it almost kind of beat in terms of views like a lot of the big budget Christmas ads. I would love to know the data behind that as well.
Like a local pub.
Yeah, it was like a Northern Ireland local pub, an old guy having Christmas dinner by himself, and then a couple join in with the dog, and it just went viral, and it was done on a shoestring budget. So I'm not saying that everyone gets out with their camcorders and their phones and stuff, but I'm saying you don't have to spend millions on ads. And we've got video guys here like John Moratis. He does a lot of our workshop videos as well. I'd love him to at some point come on the show and talk about the small budget brand communication.
He posts recent posts with like. Sorry, Bex, you go. I'll talk in a second. Go.
You make a really nice point, because I think nowadays, especially because video is king, and you've got everyone, they have their own videographer now.
Yeah.
But actually, like you were talking earlier about, if everyone's zigging, you need to zag.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power in actually making grainy, just
making it raw and authentic. Like, just make it human.
Yeah,
make it human again.
It's more human.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's where the market is going. Yeah, for sure. I think that's where the market is going. I think I think people are tired of over-engineered, over-refined videos because they feel non-authentic, not relatable. People want to have brands that they can hold their hands to. They can go have a beer with. They feel like mates, people that are close to them. So actually down-engineering, downgrading, and that's why also like people like Mr. Beast is doing so well, isn't it? Just take a mobile phone and do random shitty videos, and that's what people want to, right? They want to have celebrities or bigger brands that approachable and close to them.
But also we have to remember that when we talk about emotionally driven ads, there's more than one emotion. They don't have to be the tearjerkers and pulling at heartstrings. They can be funny ads. And in fact, again, data shows that, especially with the Super Bowl ads, the funny ads have done well in terms of triggering that emotion.
I think Geico was the kings of that back in the day. I'm showing my age now, and obviously my US present. But Geico, when they first came out with a Geico telling dad jokes, like it was the thing, you know. And so I think triggering emotion positively is that's a point of nagging, completely. Why make him
even just having that discussion, isn't it?
Yeah. You remember like Budweiser with the "What's Up"? Like that was a you know.
Yeah,
and
the
was
classic Dollar Shave Club one as well.
Yeah,
That was just pure. I mean, it was a lot about the product, but it was just so funny at the time, and even still now, you watch it and it makes you laugh, right?
But you'll know with your TV background, Ash, like there's a really brave moment when you put hardly any sound or any music to an ad, and you stick your neck out because you know that like the viewer is, or even on radio, they're expecting noise, they're expecting something to move, they're expecting a sound, and when you go in and that ad break is just like, then you're like, shit, like what's that? I know we're veering off topic, but
no, but that's creatively doing something different that will trigger some kind of emotion. It's like when you see, I don't know, again, we're going off track, but action movies, when you see crashes or something and all the noise is gone, or it's really slow classical music or something that you don't expect, that triggers off on different type of emotion, and you remember those.
A different version of that is if you think about radio, like this is showing my age now, but if I said to you, if you can think of an advert, like a jingle, and they're usually the really shitty local ones, like near me it would be like Benson's Beds or something.
Yeah.
If you think of an advert, like an ad jingle that you heard,
Sonics.
Like now I've got Calgon in my head. Like washing machines with no Calgon. Like, I know that.
We have the same in Italy, actually. Lavatrice vede più con Calgon. It's crazy, they translated it exactly. Love that.
Yeah.
But you're right. And why does that work? Because that triggers a memory, and you remember an experience. Like even the McDonald's arches. The McDonald's arches are not the most beautiful logo in the world, but it's the meaning you attach to seeing these arches that makes you feel when I say something, right? It gives you that permission to indulge yourself. It's make these. Let's go. Let's have it because you see it. I mean, I think this is another episode, those ownable assets, right? So of brands and how these ownable assets build up memories and drive purchases. But that's again, going back to what we were discussing. That's the power of brand, and that's the power of long term. And brands like Budweiser, McDonald's, and KFC, and all like these big brands, they know that, and their ads and their communication and their jingles is not revolutionary.
It's not repetition.
It's just repetition with what it carries behind it, which is the brand that makes the purchase happen.
But this is where you mash up short term and long term. Like I'm talking about the blend. So yes, the short term is releasing that whistle, right, as a jingle. But you do it over and over and over and over.
Yeah, you build the memory.
And eventually, brand then takes control, and you don't need to spend. It's that way.
Sonic branding. That's that McDonald's one is just.
Yeah, they're the kings of it, though. Like,
you
can't take
well,
that.
Listen, Rebecca, thanks so much for joining us around the water cooler.
Just so you guys know, this was always our plan to like bring the surprise guests.
We've never met Rebecca.
We were just waiting. Yeah, that amazing to meet.
But it's good to be connected, Rebecca. Thanks so much.
Happy to join again if you want me. Thanks, guys.
Come back in and wear them glasses, mate. And like, because they're wicked.
Take care.
Thank you.
We're good.
See you guys. I could have put.
Gosh, we have guests smarter than us. We're fucked.
And cooler than us, man. Give them glasses.
Yeah, we might as well just give up. We should get a post or something. So we go back to that question. Like we mentioned, how much do we spend? If I'm bought into this, what should be my split? Do you want to talk about those things, Martin? I mean, I've got some notes here I've shared with you.
Yeah, I think. Listen, I think in the early days you need to have early wins. Right, so you need to show traction, you need to show market adoption. You're getting investors, you need to show numbers. So you need to be smart and find good ways to get whatever your early win means. My suggestion is start branding from day one, because branding happens anyway. You might not be putting a lot of money into it. Be as strategic as you can. Sure, do performance marketing at the beginning because you need to generate sales and you need to show your investors that people are caring about your idea. But get the brand going, because the earlier you start, the earlier the flywheel effect goes. And I think it's proven. You start with like probably 60-40 at the beginning, performance marketing versus brand, and then slowly you start getting it back. Once you become a leader brand, like we were talking about McD's and KFC, then it gets flipped, isn't it? You have the 80% brand, the 80% emotion, and 20% marketing. Because you look at any of the advertisement of the big guys, there is no feature, there is no product, there is no lead generation, there is no buying attention. It's generating emotions, isn't it? So you start high on performance because you need to prove, and I think going up with the years, you level it up, and then it goes the other way around. But again, to me, the most important thing is start the brand immediately, because you will get to that flywheel effect earlier. Start smart, start strategic. Doesn't mean it have to be expensive, but you have to do it because it's happening anyway.
Metaphorically, like imagine if us as people are brands, right, or we're companies, sorry, and if we're going to walk to a room of people, we need to get recognized to grow our awareness, right? So why not invest in the craziest, most outrageous outfit that you can wear, so when you walk in that room, people remember you. Yeah, and metaphorically put it that way. There's an upfront investment, but once you're in that room, then you've got people's attention. You go in and looking at everyone else, right, and then everyone's talking to each other. You go in the craziest outfit in the world, people will come and talk to you. The people that want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, think about that.
I love that. And you know why I love that? Because our brains did not evolve much since we were an upgraded version of monkeys, right? We have this obsession, attraction with the different and what stands out. Back in the days, we were looking at the bushes moving, and we knew they were going to be a predator. We were looking at the red mushrooms, and we knew they're going to be poisonous. We were looking at an attractive partner, and we knew there's going to be a good match for our family. Nowadays, we're still the same. In a saturated market of lookalikes, the black sheep stands out.
Spot the difference.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah. So the metaphor is just buy the crazy outfit at the start. Don't wait.
That's cheap branding. That's cheap branding, isn't it? Because being different doesn't have to be expensive.
Cheap tactic, 100%.
It goes back to that the brains, the way it works is Daniel Kahneman's book Thinking Fast and Slow, right? And that's where the whole idea of system 1 and system 2 thinking comes. It's the rational versus the emotional, and we actually buy with emotion. We always buy with emotion.
That's another data, isn't it? That is that Harvard that says that 95% of the purchases that we make happen in the subconscious area of our brain. 95, to the point where people that have damages in the emotional side of the brain are unable to make purchase decision. And that's true, because think about how many times you purchase some shit, you went to your partner, and you justify with logic after. Isn't it?
Well, you're fighting for it after that.
I bought it.
But I bought it because of this. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like,
my best friend does it all the time. I do it to my girlfriend all the time as well. Like, I go about it, reading reviews and everything, but ultimately the purchase decision is emotional, and then I justify it.
Yeah. Well, you guys laugh at me for it. Like, I'm always like, look at this, and you're like,
the brand man.
You're the brand man. Again.
I bought some oat milk because of Wes, because the packaging looked good.
And I bought that. I bought the oat milk.
It did look good, and I tried it, and
it was actually really good.
Great product.
Shout out to Myom. If you want to try it, Myom is a new wave of like make your own oat milk. It comes in little pouches. It's genius.
that was not a sponsored ad either.
Hey, I'm trying to get some like banging here. Come on, bro.
Where's your affiliate?
Wes, how many D2C subscriptions do you still have?
Who knows?
Guys, actually, this is a point, right? This is a shameless plug, right? If there's any marketers, any marketing heads in departments that struggle to get buy-in to spend or invest in brand, we've got an upcoming cohort where we're kind of helping marketing heads get buy-in and alignment. So drop us a note, and I'll send you the link. We're just only in its infancy of designing that workshop. It'll be me, Wes, and Martin helping marketers at companies to get that buy-in and kind of teach them strategies and frameworks of how to do that well. So let us know, and also let us know, even if you're not interested in doing a course, just let us know some pain points, because it's good feedback and insight for us as we design that workshop.
Yeah.
So I think a final segue is like, let's you know, even though Ian's talking about he buys his wine through packaging, which I think everyone does. I doubt, unless you're an absolute wine boffin, you buy it with a label. Let's start ask the audience, like, what should we talk about next? Like, we're starting to put this together now, and we want to get some kind of drivers from you. You know, our model is always to try and bring somebody in at some point. We won't announce it. We're just going to surprise people and bring people in. But let's get some topics. Like, what do you want? I want to
talk about Wes buying shit and why he buys it.
I mean, I'm good at buying shit. I always buy shit, and then I'm the advocate for it. Like, I'm the marketer's dream. I really am. I hate to say it.
I want to talk about why I always get lost. Like, first it was in the woods.
Why has no one got a sat nav for Ash?
So I got lost in the woods once during a workshop, and like I said, to be fair, there were a lot of trees there that looked the same, so I've got an excuse. But today I got lost on a train.
Yeah, like he had to get on one carriage. People, he had to get on one carriage. It's not very long. Got on the wrong carriage. How do you do that? And then got on the wrong carriage, which had a part that he couldn't cross into the next carriage in between it, and he had to wait stops to get round it. Like,
is there any way of muting Wesley?
No, there's no stopping now. But that's why every time we have a workshop, we leave the place 1 hour earlier, because if Ash is driving, we're fucked.
John's in the chat. John can vouch for that.
Anyway, guys, what would you like to discuss next time? You're welcome to give us topics, recommendation. You're welcome to join on.
Yeah, if you want to come in, like, hit us up. Like, let us know. Bring a topic.
Yeah.
Motion graphics.
Not this time. Not this Friday. The Friday after, isn't it? Yeah, we're doing it every other Friday. Yeah.
Connect with us. Carry on the conversation. And listen, I didn't get through all of those questions, but we'll try replying through them on the thread. But just a few shout outs here. Thank you so much for coming, Cecilia, Ian, Stephanie, Ada. You were there last week and you're here again. Thanks so much for supporting. Abdullah, Rebecca. Thank you so much. I wouldn't have heard the last of it if it didn't work. So I really appreciate it. So until next time, I guess. See you soon. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Later.